In SuperAnnotate, the items workflow defines the possible item statuses, the possible transitions between status, and which contributor roles have visibility to items in which status. Although contributors are restricted by the workflow, I have to remind you that team admins can actually change to any status and do any transitions. In SuperAnnotate, it is also possible to customize the items workflows to specific requirements with custom roles, status, and transitions. In the example that I'm showing, there is a new status called final check, and there is a new role called the auditor. In the following sections, I will explain how to add the custom roles, status, and transitions to define your own customer workflow like this one. So the first step to create custom workflow is to add the customer roles. So at the team level, under the team setup, there is a section called roles, and I'm going to create here the new auditor role. So I do new role, auditor. When you define a new role, you can also define different role permissions in the editor, whether they can revert all the changes, approve, disapprove instances or items, pin the items, and so on. But in the end, you create the role, and the role shows in the list of possible roles. So here we have the auditor role. The next step is to create a custom status. So if I go to statuses, I'm going to create a final check status. So I do new status. I type the name of the status without spaces. So in this case, it's final check. I select which icon I want to be used. Select a shortcut from the available shortcuts and a short description. And I press create. Then the next step is to configure the actual workflow. So we go to workflows, and when you press new workflow, you have to type what is the name of this workflow, in this case, custom workflow, a description, custom workflow with additional QA stage. And here you see you have to provide a JSON file with the actual, that defines the actual transitions in the workflow. So for this, I'm going to show you how to create this JSON file. So the JSON file has several sections. The first section is the roles. So in my case, because I've added a new role, I had to edit the section of the JSON and add the role auditor, as you see here. Then the next section is just a list of all the possible status. And in my case, I've added my new status called final check. Okay. The next section indicates which is the item status when the item is first uploaded. I'm not changing this, it remains, so any item that is uploaded, it will start as not started. Then in the next session, you indicate for each collaborator role which status they can request or view items. In the case of my new role, the auditor, I can indicate that they can only see the items that are in final check. The next section is the longest and lists all the possible transitions in pairs, so from status to status, and indicating the roles that can perform that transition. If I go to the bottom of this section, you see the changes I made. So, for example, the QA in the default workflow could change items to complete status, but now they can only change items to final check. This is for the QA role. But then I've added a new section, a new transition, For the auditor role, they can change item status from final check to completed. Okay. So you have to write this JSON file as a JSON file in your laptop. And then when you go to the project level, you can indicate the file and you press create. And now you can see the custom workflow has been successfully created. Now the next step is to associate this flow with a project. So when you create a new project, this is a test project, you have the possibility to indicate which workflow you want to use, either the system workflow or the workflow that you just created and is customized. Right? So in this case, I'm going to do custom workflow, and you press create. And that's it. At this point, you should be able to assign contributors to those roles and change items to the new status. Thank you very much.